Attention, salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Yeah, that chair's a little hard, Frank.
Same with Mark.
Roll call, please.
Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Yes. Ordinance, public hearing, ordinance number 9, Mr. Friedman.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 9 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 155 of the Code of the Township of Egg Harbor entitled Motels, specifically to regulate short-term rentals of residential properties. The purpose of this ordinance is to regulate short-term rentals of residential properties. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on ordinance number 9, please come to one of the microphones. And I would hope that you don't repeat yourself, and if there's a group spokesman, come forward. Your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Jean Cipriani. I'm an attorney retained by some residents and property owners here in Egg Harbor Township. I had sent correspondence.
You have to speak into the microphone.
No, sorry.
Thank
Take
you.
it out.
One thing, okay, there.
If it's
Actually,
easier for you to sit down.
thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm sorry, I was saying my name is Jean Cipriani. I'm an attorney who's been retained to represent some of the residents and property owners here in Egg Harbor Township. I had the opportunity to send correspondence to the governing body and to Mr. Friedman, and then to speak to Mr. Friedman about some of the concerns with the ordinance. We'll try not to be repetitive in any way,
Right.
but I do want to start by saying that I had the opportunity to look at the introduction of this in first reading. I am personally much more familiar with being on your side of the dais, and I do understand there was an issue. It certainly sounds like it was primarily, I'm not going to say solely, but primarily from one particular property. I do want the governing body to know that I do not represent the owner of that property on Spring Street. I represent other individuals, some are here tonight, but not that individual. As I said, I am aware that there's an issue, and what my clients have asked me to do and what we'd like to do is work with the governing body to have an ordinance that accomplishes the aims of the governing body, but also provides an opportunity for good property owners and good people who do short-term rentals to continue to do so in ways that do not impact their neighbors. Obviously, there's some that do, and those are problem properties. And I heard many references when I listened to the last meeting, or the meeting on introduction, to an animal house. What is being proposed for adoption tonight is not an animal house ordinance. An animal house ordinance is authorized specifically by statute. I'm sure you're familiar with them. The most famous one is Belmar, and those were a series of cases coming out of Belmar that have resulted in an animal house ordinance. And as you know, that's for exactly this kind of situation. You've got a town where there are short-term rentals. Some of them are problematic, and there's a whole structure and ranking of properties to address that. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to reiterate that really what we would like to do is to work with the town to put an ordinance in place that does give you that enforcement mechanism, but is not this ordinance. And we want to work with the town and not to litigate. However, I would like to, I had to provide the correspondence, and I just want to take a few minutes to flesh out some of the issues that I think are here with this ordinance. It clearly reflects a lot of work, but these ordinances are very, very difficult to do. And I think that there are some significant problems with the one that is proposed for adoption, and the difficulty with that is if it's not done correctly, then it leads to litigation, potentially, I'm never going to predict what a court's going to do, but potentially, and for reasons I'll describe, invalidation, then you have to start again. And in this case, it's not only a question of invalidation, but there's a potential for lost revenue. So I'd like to just point out to you what I think some of the issues are.
May I interrupt you for a moment? May I ask a question? Joe
Certainly.
Farrell, Township Committee. Some of the folks that have these concerns that you're expressing, are they single-family homeowners in developments? In planned unit
Yes.
developments?
Some, yes.
Some.
Yeah, and there certainly, some of them are here, and they can speak for themselves as to their individual property situations. But yeah, some, but not all. And in terms of the regulation, so you have an ordinance proposed, you have a page of whereases that are adopted. A lot of the conditions that are described therein that are problematic obviously can be handled through enforcement of other ordinances. Noise complaints, overcrowding, sanitation, illegal parking are all ordinances that exist otherwise. And then when you get into the body of the code, which is, or the proposed ordinance, which is in the motels section, which honestly, what you're describing, and I know that you have a concern that this is allowing single-family homes and other residential properties to operate like motels, but they are not, in fact, motels, so it's a sort of strange placement. The first, and I think primary problem, or a primary problem, is the prohibition on rental of any room at any time. That is not for any term, and the problem with that is that it is too broad. And ever since the U.S. Supreme Court case called Moore versus City of East Cleveland, this idea of what a family unit is and how you can regulate that has been part of law in the country. And the definition that you have of housekeeping unit is entirely correct. The one in this ordinance, the one in your existing ordinance, it's the application. The effect of this, I'm sorry, I'm not sure quite where to hold this. The effect of this language would be to make it so that if you had a family who had an adult child who was living in the house and they wanted to charge them rent, they would be violating your ordinance. It's entirely too broad, and you're going to pick up a lot of people that I think that you don't want to pick up, aside from the fact that there's a legal infirmity to that. And I know Mr. Friedman advises you, certainly I think you're aware that you could not prohibit long-term rentals in a town. That's not possible. Somebody has a single-family house because a residential use is a residential use, whether it's owner-occupied or rented. And this has the effect of doing that. And the reason I refer to the housekeeping unit is if you have a bunch of people who are sharing a house and they sort of allocate it per bedroom, but they're functioning in a way where they're all living in the house and they all have shared kitchen privileges, they are paying per room. It's a room rental, which would be prohibited under this ordinance, but that is a valid housekeeping unit. So I think that that's an initial problem. The second significant problem is the exception for certain neighborhoods. There may be a reason, it's certainly not embodied in the whereas clauses, but I think that there's a significant problem that may be arbitrary and capricious, if not violation of equal protection. The three, I'm going to call them zones, though they're not identified as zones, only as neighborhoods that are given the exception to allow 7-day rentals in the summer are not by any means the largest. They're among the smallest square footage lots in town with the smallest setbacks. So there's a sort of irrationality in terms of crowding. You're giving an exception to what appear to be the most densely and packed and crowded areas of town. No reason is given for that. There's also an issue in that there's an exception for the summer and not for the rest of the year. There's some federal case law in New Jersey in a case called Duchera that talks about how towns, for housing purposes, can't distinguish between seasons. And obviously that developed out of the fact that a lot of towns liked summer rentals and then were concerned about winter rentals and tried to regulate that. I feel like I'm talking a long time and I'm trying to go through fairly quickly. There's an issue with the phrasing of the section on commercial rentals. The lease or rental of any dwelling for commercial or corporate purposes is prohibited. I assume, but it's not entirely clear, that that's subject to the 30-day prohibition. Commercial and corporate purposes are not defined terms in the ordinance. You have a significant number of definitions that is not defined. I don't know whether that would prevent the renting of something as a corporate retreat or guest house, or when people are transitioning and are moved by their companies. There are certainly companies that provide those kind of short-term rentals. I don't know what's meant by that, and I think that it is void for vagueness. And there's also an issue on the enforcement part of the ordinance. You have a lot of people who are able to enforce it, including legal counsel for the township, which is a surprising person to be potentially writing ordinances. But the problematic part is or other persons designated by the township administrator. Enforcement authority can only be given by ordinance. It cannot be given essentially at the discretion of the township administrator. And the point of going through all of these is to let you know, I listened to the tape. I know that you're feeling you've got angry residents and you want to respond to them, but the way that you're responding to them is not tailored to the problem that exists. It's too broad and has other legal infirmities. And I'm asking that, at the very least, it be tabled and provide the opportunity for consultation for the development of an ordinance that will accomplish the municipal goals, at the same time not unreasonably burdening residents in the town who are not operating problematic properties, and also giving an opportunity for curing the legal deficiencies of the ordinance.
Okay, is that it?
That's it for right now.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Frank.
First of all, thank you for your opinion. And I know that we could have 10 attorneys review this and we get 10 different opinions.
We always get a bad rap.
Right. So our opinion, would come from our solicitor. And is there any response, Mr. Solicitor, reference to the issues that she brought up?
I've obviously have heard these in our conversation, as well as read them in the letter as presented. The
Mark?
letter is thorough.
Excuse me, Mark, can I just ask you to pull your mask down? Thank you.
The documentation that she's provided mimics basically the arguments that she's made here. I have researched those arguments, I've discussed them with the township administrator, as you say, and as I said in my opinion letter to you that was disseminated, anytime you pass an ordinance, there's no guarantee that it's going to be enforced through and through. However, what we do have to rely upon, and some confidence in the passage of our ordinance, is that most of the language is taken exactly out of other ordinances that have been passed by other municipalities throughout the state. And the biggest item, really, when we're talking about a 30-day prohibition on short-term rentals and residential properties, is something that well over 100 municipalities in the state of New Jersey have adopted just such ordinances. So the only hesitation that I have is that we really do not have any case law that has since challenged these ordinances. They are basically of recent vintage that have only started to come and be enacted from 2016 to the present, and nobody has yet challenged them in in Superior Court. So, there's some confidence level that because of the number of municipalities that passed them and because of the fact that they have not been challenged so far, I think that we're on firm grounds. Certainly, there might be some tweaking of particular language that council has brought up that might be problematic, at least arguing different scenarios that might occur that might be worth looking into a little bit more, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily going to change the dynamic of what the Township Committee is trying to accomplish here, and that is revisiting an issue that was brought up 2 years ago in limiting short-term rentals to preserve residential neighborhoods as residential neighborhoods, that they bring the stability of having people that are residing there for a period of time to be invested into the neighborhood, And that's really what the impetus as to why this 30-day prohibition was put in place. I could let, obviously, Peter expound upon the research that was done by the Administrator's Office commencing 3 years ago, if you want to hear that. But, no ordinance is foolproof. The fact that there's a distinction between certain properties that are along the shorelines as opposed to those that are more inland and the mainland part of there's justification for that. I mean, those are primarily areas where seasonal rentals do occur, and therefore to have an exemption for them to allow for leasing of a shorter period, down to 7 days minimum, does have a rational basis and I think would be sustained.
Right. There are areas where it's more prevalent to be a second home than be your permanent residence.
That's correct. I mean, we're talking about, places like Seaview Harbor, waterfront properties,
Correct.
waterfront communities.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Your,
Peter?
your historical knowledge of your community, you know that the 3 neighborhoods that you identify has a history of doing seasonal rentals for probably 50 years, 40 years maybe in Anchorage Point. Seaview Harbor has been around for about 50 years. West Atlantic City's been there 100 years. And historically, there's been weekly rentals in those communities for as long as anybody in this room has probably been alive. One or two things that was mentioned, which I just want to clarify, is there's nothing in this ordinance that prohibits you from collecting rent from your child unless your child is planning on being with you for less than 30 days. We're limited rentals of 30 days or less, not greater than 30 days. And if you have a house where you got 4 roommates, everybody has their own bedroom in there. If they're together for more than 30 days, this ordinance doesn't apply to them. So I think the concern about we're overreaching with it, I think is misplaced. Just to follow up, my former deputy, Matthew Van der Hayden, surveyed the United States and New Jersey and came up with well over 100 ordinances in it. So the ordinance that we have is a cut and paste from the most prevalent ordinance which has been adopted in New Jersey going back to 2016-17. This ordinance is not a result of the people who submitted a petition to you in 2017. This ordinance was drafted and the governing body did not go forward with the ordinance at that time. In 2019, you revisited the same ordinance. The only thing difference in this ordinance from the 2017 and 2019 version is you did do the carve out for the 3 waterfront communities. In my research, I found several towns in Ocean County and Monmouth County that had similar carve outs for people on barrier islands, which were part of their mainland community. Toms River is probably the closest community to us that I found. So this carve out to allow people that have seasonal waterfront property, we didn't invent that. We just copied it from other towns in New Jersey that has done it over the past several years.
Okay,
I'm sorry, may I respond briefly, or?
real quick, because I'm sure there's a lot of other people want to speak to us.
Okay, just the main thing that I want to do is I have to disagree with Miller, the reading of the ordinance, and I will read the section, and this has to do with the single-family home. It is not the single room in a home. It is not limited to 30 days. And I'm reading from 155-11 sub B. Nothing in this article will prevent formation of an otherwise lawful occupancy of a dwelling unit for a rental period of more than 30 days, period. However, rental of a room or a portion of a premises, which includes accessory structures, recreational vehicles, tents, or any similar structure for any term is not permitted. So whatever the intention may have been, the language of the ordinance does not permit rental of a single room or a portion of a premises for any period. I don't want to outstay my welcome and appreciate the time that I've been given. I will point out that all of the ordinances, and I know Mr. Friedman had referred to this, because they are recent, there are ordinances that are in place. They are not all exactly the same. and there has not been litigation on these specific ordinances. So we don't know, but we do know some basic principles of law, and I think in light of those, there are significant problems with the ordinance.
Thank you. Anyone else that want to speak on ordinance number 9? Come forward,
There's a
state your
microphone
name.
over there.
Right, state your name, your address.
How you doing, everyone? Good evening, Mayor and committee and residents.
Move it away from your mouth a little bit.
A little bit away?
There you
Good.
go.
Yeah, I just want to be sure everyone hears me because I was sitting back there and I know it's really hard to hear, so I'm going to keep this off. My name, yes, Ruben Velez, 32 La Costa Drive, Egg Harbor Township. Thank you. So first I want to say thank you. I'm of the belief that I believe that the government is there to protect the citizens, and I'm actually trust the committee that is here to look for the interest and the best of our Egg Harbor Township. You know, I truly believe that. Have some notes, and I'm going to go really quick through it. Also, I want to acknowledge that we, and when I say we, we're talking about Airbnb. I'm actually in Airbnb in Egg Harbor Township. We're listening to you, and we have sympathy toward the residents of Egg Harbor Township because we are a resident also. So we're not approving of parties of drugs or broken, glass on the streets. A lot of us have children, and we're not for that. So what we're looking for is to have an opportunity for you to listen to our end, and I know that some of you probably are operating.
Mr. Release, I want to, are you for or against this? Because I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay.
Are you for, simple question, are you for this ordinance or against it?
I'm in favor of maybe regulating, but I'm not in favor of prohibiting it.
Do you own more than one property in town?
I'm sorry?
Do you own more than one property in town?
No, I do own one home. Okay? And as I look at all of you, and I'm speaking to them because they're the ones that are hurt, and I know you're listening both sides. So as I look at you, all of you has masks. I don't know who's Airbnb, who's not Airbnb, but I know one thing. All of you are looking at one same problem.
I need you to hold the microphone maybe
Yeah,
6 inches away from your mouth.
Like that. Okay.
Yeah, we're having a tough time understanding you, and that's why.
Oh, really?
I think
Okay,
committee
I'm
make a
sorry.
fair ask. Yeah, just back it up a little bit.
Keep it away.
Like that.
Slow down, there's no clock.
Okay. So I know there is, we all have the same problem, okay? It's not just the residents, but the short terms or long terms or residents that are not abiding by the laws of the township, they are a problem to all of us, okay? So I removed the labels of short-term, long-term residents. We need to deal with whatever issues we have within our township. So our approach to it, okay? So we're not here to represent the bad Airbnb. We're actually here as the good Airbnbs, if you want to call it. And we are the ones that are generating interest in our community. The ones that have been operating for as long, some of us, as many as 5 years, and have an impeccable record in our community. No issues. We do not welcome bad behavior, animal house parties, or drugs. That is not our intention. To prohibit or not to prohibit short-term rentals is the wrong question. That's my opinion. So this is what we're asking. We're asking not to enact a blanket ban or prohibition against short-term rentals. Okay. Airbnb, most of the Airbnb's home, if you're not familiarized with it, they're actually incredibly well maintained and upgraded. They have to be on top of it. So that's a good thing for our community. Also, as of this week, Airbnb announced a new rule to help with eliminating or helping the issues with house parties. And they just passed a rule that no guest under 25-year-old can book an entire home. Okay, I know that because I have a 22 years old that wanted to go out with his, college friends, to celebrate the senior year, and he can't book an Airbnb. Most of the problems are caused by young adults. So we, the Airbnb group, submitted, this is what we're submitting to you. Egg Harbor Township does not have a prevalent issue with Airbnbs, or when I mean Airbnb, I mean the other ones also, like HomeAway and VOR and all those short terms. But the point is that we don't have a prevalent issue with Airbnb. We actually obtain ordinance records through the Open Public Record Act for all issue ordinance related to the following. So that way you can see the extent that we went to. Overcrowding, unruly behavior, obscene language, fighting, littering, parking of vehicles on lawns, public urination, sanitation issues, poor maintenance and property and grounds, and violation of trash collection and noise ordinance. The Egg Harbor Township Police provided us with several databases, and we correlated, okay, all the existing Egg Harbor Township Airbnbs, VORs, HomeAway addresses to issue ordinance, or to ordinance that were issued for 2018, 2019, and 2020. So I'm going to try to make a point here. I'm very visual. So this here are a couple thousands of ordinances that we have in our township. And they're available to you. You can just ask, the police department to provide it for you. I know. So there's only one.
Use the mic, okay, so everybody can hear you. And try
There's
to,
only one, as far as I know, and the search that we did, and it was pretty thorough. There was only one short-term rental Airbnb type of thing that was causing a problem among the many Airbnbs that we have, which is the 17 Spring Street, which I'm aware of it. We're not against you. We are for you. We want this resolved. And we're not asking to eliminate, the completely ruling of it. What we're looking for it is to resolve the issue. So we are in favor of it, of helping to resolve this problem. But I don't want people to react out of fear. Fear pushes people to swing all the way. And all that we're asking is to have a chance to sit down and have some conversations with our community
Mr. Ruiz,
and work that out.
If I may interrupt you, please.
Yes.
Who is we? We are asking. Who do you represent?
We is a group of Airbnb that are in Egg Harbor Township. Okay, I contacted every single Egg Harbor Township Airbnb. Some of them are here today, and you probably are going to hear from them. But it's good that people see faces, because it gave us a bad reputation when some of us probably are one of your best residents that you have. And we care about our communities, so we are asking you guys that you not immediately pass the prohibition, but you give us a chance to work for this. I'm going to make a point. The lawyer that we have, the reason why we choose that lawyer was not because we wanted to make the best point and win, okay? The reason we choose her is because she has 25 years working with municipalities and cities to help them. So we want to understand what your issues are, because your issues are the same issues that we have. And they're giving not only a bad reputation for short terms, but they're giving a bad reputation for long terms and rentals and for all the issues. So that's why she was brought on board. And we can look into, going into a long legal battle and all that. But we don't need to do that. What we're looking for is to have a chance to speak, civilize, and and as quick as possible to find a solution, because I agree with you. And I know some of you are angry, and I'm angry too. I do not want that kind of behavior in our community. I want to show you one thing.
Okay,
Can you address us?
I want you to.
Yes.
Yes.
you.
I want to show you one thing that
Yeah,
we
one
do.
more thing, because we could go all night. I think you said you're for this, but
Yes.
you want to fine tune it the way I get it, that it works.
I'm
I
for
got it.
working the situation.
Okay.
I'm not just for just throwing out the towel and.
No. We don't want that. We
No.
want it to work.
Absolutely. But I want to show you something that, I don't know if this is
real
going to
quick.
impress you or not, but Airbnb house rules, these are my house rules.
In your house?
In my house,
Okay.
okay? No drunkenness, no drugs, no smoking.
So you rent, you rent short-term rentals?
They are people that are my guests in my
All right,
home.
thank you. I think
Okay.
your testimony
So,
may
but
right
you're
there.
there, is what you're saying? You
Yes,
live in the
I
house?
live on the house.
You live there and you
I
rent?
live on the house. I'm a present there. I welcome the guests. We love, I know that this is not for everyone. Not everyone has the same DNA, and I understand that. I come from a culture, I don't know if you ever heard the term, mi casa es su casa. Okay, I come from a culture that we share our homes.
But you charge them to share it.
Yes, I do.
There you go.
Yes. But we're sharing the expenses of whatever it is for that weekend. We sit down with the people we eat, as much as interaction they want. We've seen hundreds of people through the years.
Right, but
And
but
it doesn't have to be
the majority
Airbnb.
do not live there. The majority rent their house, and they're absentee.
No, I'm not absentee.
You're not. You're the exception.
I am in the house when
You're the
they're renting
exception.
with there.
You
Yes.
are the exception. We got
You're
it.
on the-
We
you're
got
on
it.
the site
So
when you
there's
rent.
many of us that are like that, just so you know. But the point that I was trying to make is,
Okay.
I uphold these rules.
All right, very good.
And in
Thank you.
5 years, we have never had an issue with anyone.
Sir, can we
Okay.
let someone else speak now?
Absolutely,
Thank you.
yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on the topic? Come forward, give your name and address in the township, or where you're from.
Hello, committee. Joseph Van Veen, I am 17 Spring Lane. I'd like to make a couple points first, if I may. And the first point, and I heard somebody mention that the initial petition was 2017 or 16.
Yeah, you got to
Speak into the mic, please.
I'm not sure if this
There you
is
go.
working well.
Yeah, it is.
It's working. Okay. So concerning the petition, actually, I have a copy of the petition from Patricia. It's kind of written as it's the reserve development of Egg Harbor Township. My attorney, Hoffman DiMuzio, which has sent some correspondence in my behalf, has mentioned this petition and some articles on Facebook and some cease and desist letters that went out. I believe you have copies of. But back to the petition. In the township code, and I looked up the definition of petition, and it says any person known as it says petition, it's a noun, the act of soliciting, entreaty, urging, enticement, allurement, but soliciting is in the definition of petition. And in the Township Code 129-10, a person known as a canvasser, whether a resident of the township or not, traveling either by foot, by cart, motor vehicle, or any other type of conveyance, from place to place, from house to house. And I don't want to go through the whole article or the whole code, but it goes on to say any person taking a poll, a survey from house to house, from street to street, is followed by Code 129-11, license required. So I just want to ask the committee that if this petition was illegally submitted to the township, that it not be in consideration for the decision made here tonight. I do oppose the ordinance, the amendment to the ordinance. We have, as I said, 17 Spring Lane. It's a private house, and in today's pandemic, it's safer than a public place. I just read a lot of articles.
Sir, may I interrupt you for a moment?
Sure.
Where is your permanent residence?
17 Spring Lane.
Oh,
Does that dictate residency?
Wait, the conversation is up here,
All
not,
right.
you're
I
talking
asked
to
you
us.
a direct question.
Yes.
Where is your permanent residence?
17 Spring Lane, Egg
You
Harbor
have a Jersey
Township.
driver's license and all of that?
I transferred my insurance over, but I couldn't get the motor vehicle. I had to transfer it back to New York because the motor vehicles weren't open. The day that they did open, I was there. I couldn't get in. The next day, they closed for another week. So, no is the answer.
Do you live with the rentals when they're there?
I do not. I have a secondary home in New York City, in Staten Island,
So when
New
you
York.
rent, you go to Staten Island?
Correct. Well, I go to Staten Island anyway, so I'm between
Right.
both places. I'm applying for
Okay.
a job here in the township
So
as
how many
director,
weeks a year do you rent?
as director of transportation here. I'm applying.
How many weeks a year do you rent?
Well,
Or would you like to rent?
I can't directly answer that because we've only had 6 renters so far, and I don't know how we become so popular. Excuse me.
Okay, just make your point, sir.
We've only had 6 renters so far. But I would like to point out a little bit about our Airbnb, if you could indulge me.
Well, sir, I mean, basically, I think, Mr. Mayor, is we're going to, we like to hear people if you're for or against the ordinance.
I have him as against.
Yeah, I
Okay.
know he said he's against it.
I just
but,
wanted to.
I don't know, am I wrong in, I mean, are we going to litigate this thing here? I mean, you're against it, okay, thank you.
I just wanted to make a point
Okay.
about
Which point?
safety,
Thank you.
if
Go
I
ahead,
can.
make your point.
Okay. So, we were in Paris when the Uber, when all of that rolled out. And as times change, things get safer that weren't safer before. Uber is now phenomenal service, right? People aren't with a family, you've got to take maybe 4 rooms in a hotel. So now you're in separate rooms. So now, you're riding an elevator where people just coughed, sneezed in it and whatever. So the safety in our home is second to none. We did have a police complaint, and we went right out and we got noise aware. We subscribed to a noise alert system that alerts us and the management company who holds the right to evict. And there's a whole plan involved in eviction, and I'm not with Airbnb. I am with Evolve on a platform, and we have a second J&G Rentals, which makes the final decision of who we're going to rent to. It's a very, very safe process. I don't know how I so quickly with 6 renters got the reputation I did, but it's not the right reputation. We are far better than that.
Okay.
We have security systems. We have camera monitoring systems. We have, we are doing it by the book and better.
Okay.
So, and insurance. Our platform carries a $3 million policy for us and the neighbors, and Allstate Insurance Company carries us on a short-term rental of an additional $3 million. So we're covered through Allstate, we're covered through the platform, and that's us and our neighbors. And most people in our neighborhood, they have 8, 9 people in their house. They have their kids, their mothers, their fathers, we limit at 8 people, So we're not a burden to sanitation. We're not a burden to, we follow the rule.
Okay.
You follow the rules, Super. You're also talking about people who live in their home with their families. We're talking about strangers coming into a neighborhood, into a house where you were not there. The last gentleman was there and has control. From what we understand from the police reports, there has been lack of control at your property.
No, nobody has alerted me. We have a management
sir.
company that's here local. Nobody has alerted us. Nobody has said,
Okay.
This is where I don't want to go.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else want to speak on this topic? Come forward. You've been trying to get up here. Come on. Come on down. Try not to repeat yourself. Name, address, and make your points.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking this up. My name is Gary Hines. I live at 134 Wedgewood Drive.
Okay,
in
Gary.
Andover Township. I am Mr. Vanderveen's neighbor.
Okay.
Mr. Vanderveen, you've done nothing to do anything about the drug usage that goes on in your house.
Okay, all right.
At
No,
11
no.
years old, I have to explain to my daughter that's
Hey,
not a
hey.
skunk.
Hey, listen.
Address us.
Make your comments to us, the five of us.
I'm sorry, but
Thank
I'm
you.
just really aggravated. I've been living next to this
Okay.
animal house for months, and I'm tired of it. And
Okay.
I left my pitchfork at home this time,
Okay,
okay?
all right. Make your points to
It's
us.
regular drug usage. There's people drinking all the time, breaking beer bottles in the streets. I have watched Mr. Vanderveen harass my neighbors, both through his attorney and personally, walking around outside,
Okay.
cursing at my neighbors over their fence. And I stood there and watched him do it, and he didn't dare say a word to me.
Okay,
Okay? I'm really tired of this slumlord over here.
okay.
This is the type of crap that needs to be out of Egg Harbor Township immediately.
All righty.
Thank you very much for taking this up. I'm sorry if I'm aggravated, but
No, no.
I've had enough.
Listen, that's why we're here. It needs to be orderly, and you need to make your point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Oh, you just walked in and you get the microphone.
Oh, no, I've been sitting in the back the whole time,
All righty.
Mayor. Thank you very much.
Name and address.
Thank you, sir. Jim Jaquinto, 212 Peachtree Lane in the Reserve. My wife and I purchased our home in Egg Harbor Township 20 years ago. We fell in love with the development, not to rent it out, but to live in it, because it is a safe, secure, clean family development. That is how we'd like to keep it. So I commend you tonight for your ordinance. I understand there were other people here this evening speaking, giving you reasons why you shouldn't, very legalese reasons. Here's the bottom line. A development like that was not meant to have an Airbnb and rent a place out for 2 or 3 evenings. Thank you, and I urge you to vote this ordinance in this evening.
Thank you, Jim.
Lady over there.
Name and address, please. Thank you.
Yes, my name's Keith Bedina. I live at 116 Wedgewood Drive in the Reserve.
Okay.
I moved to Egg Harbor Township 17 years ago because I just fell in love with the neighborhood and all my neighbors that I live with. Since this has gone on, it's pretty embarrassing what I see driving through my neighborhood at the end of my street every weekend. My children are not allowed to ride their bikes around because of what occurred a couple weeks ago in our neighborhood. That's not why I moved here. I've traveled all around the world in the jobs that I've had, and this is what it's starting to look like again. And I don't want this. So I am against this.
Could you be more specific about what you observed?
Drug usage, broken bottles in the street, the cul-de-sac where my children ride their bikes, they can't ride their bikes there anymore because there was broken glass.
Excuse me a minute. I know what you're trying to say, but you said you're against it. You're for the amendment or against it?
I am for the amendment and
Well,
against.
they get that on the record.
I got it.
I am for the amendment, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on the topic? All righty, this young lady, you're next. Go ahead. Name, address? Yes.
My name is Galina Bilakova and 17 Spring Lane. And I just would like to tell you a short story about our hospitality service.
Just get to the mic a little closer so we
like
can hear
this.
you.
It's okay? Better? Thank you. We bought our house recently, 1 year ago in September. From the first day, we love this house and the area, and we take care about that house pretty well. You know, my husband cut the grass every week, and house is really good condition, you know. And this house, it's our life here in this town. We like neighborhood, we like the township. we're living here now. So we prepared that house with love and start our family short-term vacation rental with a Valve company because it's located in so beautiful area next to the Jersey Shore. And so many people just dream about to spend at least a weekend here in this beautiful area. The safety and quiet environment for our neighbors, it's our priority. Once the call to police, yes, it was a police, our neighbors called because the music was too loud. And it was during the daytime at 6 o'clock. And we are new in this and we're immediately correct that. But installing noise alert system, it's a special alert system. If noise is above normal, it will alert straight to our phones and management company. It's happened once. Yeah, that was called to police. But now we manage that and we try to prevent all that problems to avoid them, to don't disturb our neighbors. In order to avoid big gathering, we have our house rules. Like we don't want gathering big group people. We are allowed now, we change all our rules. Only 8 people allowed to visit our house. You know, like accommodation, it's really strict for 8 people only. And it's a big house, it's like a lot of space. We're greeting all our guests upon arrival.
Excuse me, ma'am, if I may ask a question here.
Yes, sure, please.
Do you own a house?
Yes.
You own it together?
Yes, we're a
so
couple.
you both own the same house?
Yes, we're a
Okay,
couple.
so you're making the same argument?
I'm just adding, you know,
Go ahead.
like,
Go ahead, but
May-
are you opposed to this or for it?
They're married.
No, I know.
for because, you know, it's our work and we would like, you know, to provide service, good service, hospitality service for people.
So you're opposed to the ordinance?
We're, like, I would like to say all mistakes, what we are learning by mistakes, and we try to fix them right away. You know, if any problem, like our neighbors have, no, according to this business, can you please and talk to us, not go talk to us through police officer, because we will respond, we will fix, we're open to discuss all those, you know, problems, you know, what they have to us, you know. We're...
Okay,
Sir.
all right, hold on. Come on, make your comments and get quick, we got other people who want to
just
speak.
a moment. Since March, when COVID pandemic has started, we didn't accept any guests. We were strictly following the township proclamation for banning short-term rentals. And we were closed. And we opened our house only after restriction has been lifted. We follow all the rules. And we're glad we can share house with people, you know, and especially in this time, then helping people who are afraid to stay in hotels and motels due to COVID-19 pandemic, to families with kids, to religion small groups of people who cannot share public places and stay in hotels. Like now, scientists suggest that staying in hotel with so many people under one roof give you more chances of getting infected. The private house is much more safety. We are thoroughly cleaning that house and like it's really nice inside. From another side, we are so happy to provide jobs in our town for cleaning service workers, pool and jacuzzi maintenance, local restaurants, and management companies. At this difficult time, I think it's so important
Mayor,
to
with all
have
due
a jobs.
respect, ma'am, with all
and
due respect,
be
there's many
able-
people that would like to speak, and I know she's
Okay.
against this
And be
ordinance.
able to feed their
May.
families. We're learning that hospitality service by our mistakes and adjusting it right away to avoid any of them. So far, all our guests rated us with 5 stars review, and I think we are going in the right direction.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ma'am, you're next. Name and where you live.
Hi, my name is Jill Wellfield. I live at 212 Ohio Avenue, and I am not from the reserves.
Okay,
I need to implore you to please pass this ordinance.
thank you.
It is absolutely not just a reserve issue. It
I know.
is all across the township. And it is absolutely not the people that are sitting in their house monitoring their guests. They're not the ones that are the major problems. It's the ones that are allowing a parent to rent out a house that is booked as a corporate retreat, a party location, like my neighbors, and it sleeps up to 16 people, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, there is nothing but a humongous party of 19-year-olds going on. And there is no property owner anywhere in sight. There's no monitoring going on. There's none of that. Now, if all of that was actually in place, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about this.
I can tell you from my own personal experience that these are not isolated instances. And this
We
has
know
been
that.
going on, we explored this
Absolutely.
3 years ago.
And I don't have a problem with Airbnb and home. I've used them myself. However, I don't expect it in a non-shore town. I expect it in Ventnor. I expect it in Ocean City. But a longer-term rental, you're going to keep better track of your property. Somebody that's coming in for a month, you're going to take care of your property. Because you're going to be living there for a month or a week or whatever. But these 2-night rentals, they really don't care. So I have nothing but trash being blown into my yard because, of course, they're leaving on Monday, the trash goes out, but trash doesn't get picked up until Thursday. Sometimes the cleaners don't come right the next day, especially if they do not have another renter coming in within another 2 days. The house doesn't get clean.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak on this topic? Over there. Frank? Ma'am, your name and address.
Hello. My name is Emily Vu, and I live at 401 Glen Avenue. I am against the amendment to ban Airbnb or short-term rental. I am a local Airbnb host, and in case any of you can hear me, please remind me so I can speak louder. Besides owning short-term rental, I also own long-term rentals. And I would like to share with you, the board, that there are issues on both sides. From a landlord, a regular long-term landlord standpoint with tenants, especially today with the pandemic, the injustice, if you will, and I would like to be heard for it because I'm very frustrated. I felt that the law is set in this particular sense by our governor to allow the tenant to not pay rent. It published, right, through the executive order that tenants don't need to pay rent, and therefore they used to pay, now they don't. Each month of the prolonged issue that we have with the pandemic, it become a major financial issue for operator like myself. Financially, most of us, besides the down payment that we bought this particular investment property, we don't make any money. I would like to share with the residents who live here, and I live here too, that there are both sides, and we as residents have to be acknowledged of those issues. So for an example, if we are, as this group, against the short-term rental and said, okay, fine, what about long-term rental? Well, there are major issues with them as well. I have had tenants who, pinch the plumbing line so that it broke and cost me $8,000. I have had a brand new heating and air system that they would unplug, cause damage, cause the township. You know, there's a lot of issues, and what dare to stop you from being right next to a tenant who lived there long term, who is using drugs, who is disrespectful to you and the neighbor, right? Because the fact that the house is, let's say, vacant or being owned by someone as an investor, that doesn't eliminate the issue.
Excuse me for just a minute.
Yes.
Can you please stick on the short-term rentals? Long-term rentals are allowed. So we're not talking about that tonight. We're only talking about the short-term rentals.
Okay.
Can
So
you
now
please stay with just that?
Thank you. So the short-term rental, so the choice that we made as an owner is to rent it out short-term. I honestly cannot speak about any other individual short-term rental listing. I can only speak for mine. The generic rules, if you will, that are kind of published by Airbnb, and there are certain guidelines that a host should follow. So for example, there is a minimum age of 25. There also, on the entire platform for a short-term rental, they don't allow party. So if there are individuals who rent the house and so-called host an unauthorized party, they're doing it illegally already, at least against the house rule for most of us. And then if there was an issue, naturally the noise ordinance already kicks in, usually 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And even during the daytime, let's say there's excessively loud music, the neighbor naturally would call the policeman. So earlier, I believe the gentleman, Ruben, spoke first. He had mentioned that there wasn't any direct violation of those issues. Regarding trash and trash collection, most of these Airbnb, and again, I can't speak for anyone else, but the Airbnb, when you have guests coming in and then they produce trash, the cleaning company are already taking care of it.
Okay.
So
How many
if there
you
was...
own? Do you own more than one B&B?
No, just one.
Okay, you're against this or for this
I am
ordinance?
against the banning of short-term rental in this town.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak? I see somebody come on up.
Hello. My name is Lisa Schaefer. My property address is 6508 Riga, and I oppose the bill. I've been an Airbnb host for a little over a year now. What I love about Airbnb is the ability for me as a host to completely regulate, which is what we should do.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
Okay. Completely regulate what I will and will not tolerate in my home. This is laid out very clearly to potential guests in my policy section prior to booking, and then reiterated again after booking. I do not allow parties, and we are very mindful of our neighbors. Guests are also made aware of our Ring doorbell, which allows us to monitor who is coming in the house and also the noise level. If at any time guests are not following our policies, we can and will make them leave. I have hosted primarily like extended weekends in the summer, but mostly throughout the year, I have hosted employees from the Air Force Base right over here at the FAA that are contracted out. But the Airbnb has become a reliable source of income for me, and I count on it, especially in this time. And so I'm hoping and praying you will consider regulation as opposed to completely banning it.
What did you say your address was, ma'am?
It's 6508 Riga.
Riga? Okay.
Yes,
Ms.
thank
Schaefer,
you.
Do you just rent out rooms in your home, or do you actually vacate your home and rent
I
out the entire home?
actually rent out my entire home, and when I'm not there, I'm a half a mile up the street at my parents', if you must know. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Valentina Hines, and I live on 134 Wedgewood Drive. My husband spoke earlier. So we live across from 17th Spring Lane, and if it wasn't a problem, we wouldn't be here today. There obviously is a big problem with this Airbnb. We live there. for many years, since 2008. And we invested a lot in this house, a lot of work, a lot of money. We raised our family, we raised our child in this house. And it was nice and beautiful, quiet neighborhoods, and we enjoyed it until we got this situation with this Airbnb. Since it started, we constantly get strange people.
May I interrupt you for a moment? Because I'm having a hard time hearing you. You're for the ordinance.
I am for the amendment. I'm against the Airbnb.
Right, you're for the amendment.
For the amendment to.
Okay, and do you have small children? Do you have children?
I have, yes. I have an 11-year-old daughter. And since we started having those Airbnb visitors, the renters, we live in the cul-de-sac, this property is a cul-de-sac. We get a lot of cars coming and parked on the cul-de-sac. And so I can't even let my daughter play on the cul-de-sac and ride her bike by herself. So that's one issue. And we have a lot of kids in this neighborhood who do ride bikes and they play. And because of this Airbnb guests, we constantly get cars parked, even though they say they allow only 8 people. In their listing, first of all, it says up to 12 people. Now, even if they say they maybe change the listing details and maybe now they allow 8 people, it doesn't mean that those 8 people don't invite other people to come, because it happened before. And we did have issues with very loud music, and the guests were crazy. I know the homeowner has cameras all over the place. He watches all of us. He watches his backyard, he watches the cul-de-sac, he watches our properties. I didn't know, I assume he doesn't have cameras inside, but he definitely has cameras facing the backyard, and he obviously knows about noises that the guests make, the parties that they have in this property, and for some reason he never bothered, if he sees the cameras, if he sees what's going on in the house, he never bothered to call the guests and to tell them to stop. And we have those problems, like I telework right now because of this COVID-19, I have to work from home. And many times I could not even attend telecons because there would be loud music coming from that property. So, like I said, if it wasn't an issue, we would not be here. And I didn't prepare the speech, I'm just speaking from my heart because it really bothers us. It's just me, it's a lot of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I see. Come on forward. Name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Randy Guevara, 122 Wedgewood Drive, Egg Harbor Township. I live several houses away from the rental properties. I am for the amendment. I am against the short-term rental for Airbnb. Now, this is just my observation that lately I've been seeing a lot of cars driving so fast in my street, in our neighborhood. That's just an observation on my part. I have not seen, because I'm several houses away from the properties that are being in question, but all I'm seeing is that the cars are driving so fast lately.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak on ordinance number 9? Come forward. I recognize you with that mask on. How you doing, Kevin? Name and address for the record.
Good evening. Kevin Rutledge, 100 Peachtree Lane. I am for the ordinance. I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is it okay for me to set up a public business in my residential home in Egg Harbor Township? In other words, can I set up a closed store in my garage and have people coming up constantly shopping in my garage? Is that okay for me to do?
It's a good point. No, this is a residential section, and we understand it. Thanks, Kevin. Anyone else? Young lady? Someone else is... No one else?
No? Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, Louise DeGolia, 213 Azalea. Not repeating what everybody else has said safety-wise. I have kids can't ride their bikes because of the drug use. A 15-year-old impressionable girl. I don't want her near these houses with these kids drinking and smoking. It's not good. I bought my house like Mr. G because I like my neighborhood.
Okay.
I don't want that there. Kids today have enough going on. They don't need the extra with the strangers driving around. You never know. Uber has a platform. I'm sure the girl that got in the car and got murdered felt safe doing that. I'm sure Airbnb in Costa Rica, when that girl was left alone, she got murdered. Everybody has a platform. Everybody will try and do what's right. But you never know what's going to walk into your neighborhood. So I am against this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on number 9? You have see the hands? Come on up. You're next, young lady.
Hi, everyone. My name's Endless Vida Senior.
Use the microphone. There you go.
I'm a resident of Egg Harbor Township for 8 years. I've been in long-term rental business for multiple years and just started short-term rental for Airbnb platform about a year ago. I think it's a great idea since we are located at the Jersey Shore. New Jersey is famous for local tourist destination. Last year, tourists spent over $46 billion, generating $5.1 billion of state and local taxes. It's about equivalent to $1,500 in tax savings for every household in New Jersey. In my case, we bought ugly house in a nice neighborhood and transformed it to really nice kept property, which does boost surrounding real estate prices and living quality.
Excuse me, sir, what's your address?
76 Summers Avenue.
Summers?
Yeah. And this case shows that Egg Harbor Township, having all laws and regulations, wasn't able to do anything to improve appearance and compliance for this neighborhood and this property. Short-term rentals gives you way more control over your property so you can keep it in top shape. Plus, it does need extra jobs and business to our town too. I think biggest advantage to Egg Harbor Township is that we pay property taxes, which largest portion is a local school tax. And short-term rental do not use any of that. So we are giving a huge chunk of cash to city and we get nothing in return. We do have surrounding cities like Ocean City, Margate, Ventnor, and others, which has short-term rental for many, many years, and it does work well for them. So I would offer to come up with some kind of regulation mechanism instead of banning short-term rental completely. Otherwise, we can legally transfer our fully furnished property to a halfway house or transitional living for people coming from New Jersey. I had a couple offers from rehab offices. And please do not discriminate our resident as you did adding Article 155-12, adding exception for West Atlantic City, Seaview Harbor, Anchorage Point. What this neighborhood is different? Is this Egg Harbor Township? Or it has some of our relatives, friends living, asking you a favor, something like that. Like I said, I have a lot of long-term properties and stuff, and I think we have more trouble with them than short-term. So that's my opinion. And I'm against this new whatever ban you want to do.
You're for the ordinance?
Against.
Oh, you're against the ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Ma'am, you were next. Come on forward. Name and address, please.
Pat Kokoza. I live at 131 Wedgewood Drive in the Reserve at Egg Harbor Township. And my story is that when I purchased a home in 1996 here, I purchased it as my forever home in a single-family residential development.
Right.
It was the first house on the street, and my plan was to live the remainder of my life there. Everything was going fine until March, when my neighbor, Mr. Van Veen, decided to tell me he was choosing to share his home as a rental. And if you want to rent your home for a year, I have no problem with that. You know, there's been series of renters throughout the development, and I get to know who they are, we can interact, and the case may be. This didn't seem to be the situation that it ended up to be. The individuals that have, been at his place of business, I can just show you pictures of the burdens that it's placed on me as as a homeowner and a resident of the reserve, and also to the township taxpayers that have to haul all the extra stuff away on trash day. And it's like the other gentleman just said, he said, well, we don't send our kids to the school. Well, guess what? I've lived here for 24 years. My children never went to any school in this system. Guess what? I pay the same amount of property taxes, including school taxes, as everyone else in this neighborhood. And I deserve, and I think I deserve, the right to live in quiet in my residential neighborhood. I have pictures here that can support some of the issues that have been addressed by various people throughout here. This was a volleyball court that was placed up by the neighbors when they visited. This is public property, and normally our children would play on there, but when the visitors come, they decided that they wanted the net up. I have additional photos of the guests parking on the grass. Okay? I don't want that in my neighborhood. Here's another photo of the guest leaving alcohol on top of their car after a full night of partying so that my neighborhood children can possibly take it down off the car and get poisoned. This is the series of guests that leave the residence. If you notice, they're not the church ladies, Joe, that you told me that you were going to rent to. This is the trash after one weekend. Now, I don't know, 2 people living in a single-family home usually just have one trash can. I think they're 40 gallons. This isn't the hat problem. This is the sign when he had the house bought that he decided to throw on township property instead of returning to the realty company. This is another one. This one happened to have balloons, the helium tanks, after the guests left for the weekend. And again, more trash. And yes, he does have a cleaning company that comes after when he returns. Bottom line is, I would like to have my residential neighborhood remain a residential neighborhood, as I'm sure my neighbors do. I have every right, as a citizen of the United States, to go and ask my neighbors to sign a piece of paper. And if for some reason we do need a license, I'll be glad to get that license for you. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you.
I am for this ordinance. I'm sorry? Sure.
Peter, I'm going to send the YO people, if they're here, to go this way, because I think they changed their... Is there anybody here for the YO meeting? Thought you were.
Okay.
They went into the building. Okay.
Okay. Anyone else on ordinance number 9, come forward to a mic and state your name and address. We'll wrap this up.
Yeah, let's call for a vote.
Teresa McGaney Guy, 100 Azalea Lane. And Pat, that was well done. I purchased my home 20 years ago to raise my family there, and I just want to second what Pat said. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Microphone, name and address.
Hello, my name is Michael Gavin, 209 Peachtree Lane. Hello, everybody.
How you doing?
I moved into the reserves 22 years ago. We moved there because it was a family neighborhood, and with homeowners association, everything would be good. What's going on now with these people coming with Airbnbs? These aren't people that live in Egg Harbor Township. They don't care about their neighbors. They don't care about what's going on. They have their parties, and they leave, and nothing's going to happen to them. I was a police officer in Atlantic City for 26 years. I saw the way Airbnbs took over down a little bit further on Albany Avenue, and how the parties and how the fights and how the police had to respond. It's not what I signed up for. If you own a house and you can't afford it, sell the house. It's not there for profit. I didn't move into a business area. I moved into a residential area, and that's all.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anyone else want to speak on ordinance number 9? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Need a roll call on the motion?
Yes.
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 Yes. Do we have a motion to adopt ordinance number 9? Mr. Freeman, you have any advice for us before
I'll
this?
make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion made and second. You want to speak, Mr. Freeman?
It's just if there's any discussion between members based upon what you've heard and what your
Well, yes.
reasons
Thank you.
behind it, it
Thank
might
you,
be
Mayor.
appropriate
I'm
time to
sure
do
we all
that.
got something to say. I mean, I've experienced this in my own development. They're single-family homes. These developments are built as single-family homes. And these Airbnbs, in my opinion, go against the whole premise of that. So I will be voting in favor of this ordinance.
Anybody else? Frank?
Yeah, Mayor, a couple things. First of all, in my opinion, the way I'm looking at this ordinance is not about one particular house. This is not about the house on Spring Lane that has been brought up many, many times tonight. This is about the entire Egg Harbor Township. As I said earlier, there's a place for everything, and the place for weekly rentals is in an area of the township or an area of any municipality where the majority of the homes are second homes, not a residential neighborhood in the subdivisions. And, you know, somebody brought up that, you know, with the COVID, you know, it's hurting the short-term rental property owners. Well, COVID is hurting everyone. People that own homes, that live in their homes, people that, you know, normally are working in the casinos that are not working right now. It's not just someone that bought a house and decided to rent it out. I think this is a good thing. I heard that, you know, we bought this house. It's a beautiful neighborhood. It's a beautiful house. It's beautiful neighbors, so forth and so on. It'll be even more beautiful if you have residents that are in there, rentals that are in there for 30 days or more, because that's what the residents of a residential neighborhood expect, and I will be voting yes for this.
Okay. Anything else, Andrew?
Mayor, I'll keep it pretty short. We've been here pretty long on this topic. The residents have come in and they've spoken for the most part, and there has been complaints and problems with the residents and taxpayers of Egg Harbor Township, and our job is to represent the needs of the residents in this township that are paying taxes. So with that said, I'll be voting in favor of our ordinance. Now, I know that Mr. Friedman had brought up some with the suggestions and recommendations of their lawyer to possibly look at some of the language inside of the ordinance. I don't know if we want to look at some of the language and adjust some of the language, but I will be voting in favor of our ordinance for short-term rentals.
Okay. Laura?
This is an issue that we've talked about on Township Committee on and off for the last 3 or 4 years. And it's not just here in the township, but it is one thing, especially when you're in a residential neighborhood. All of us, or most of us, have raised our families here, or we've raised them in a neighborhood. And the one thing that Airbnb, VRBO, Home Away, whichever one it is, they're not neighbors. They are temporary people that come to dwell in that house for a weekend, have a good time, and leave. And a lot of them, most of them are actually probably very good neighbors. However, there are quite a few that aren't. And our job, I feel, is to look out for the residents of this town. And the residents of this town need the protection in place that they can enjoy their homes the way they want to. So I will absolutely be voting in favor of this ordinance.
Okay. I'll ask the clerk for a roll call, please.
Do we get a motion to?
Yeah, you made a motion, Joe, and
Yes.
second by Andrew.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. Ordinance number 10, Mr. Friedman.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 10 is an ordinance authorizing the execution of an agreement for a tax abatement with Egg Harbor Associates LLC, care of the Wolfson Group Incorporated, for the property located at 6801 Black Horse Pike, also known as Block 2118, Lot 1.04X. The purpose of this ordinance is to grant the Egg Harbor Associates a tax abatement for a 7,163 square foot restaurant known as OP3 on the approved site plan for the development, commercial development Oak Tree Plaza. Thank you.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on ordinance number 10, come forward. Name and address, please. Well, you know.
Hello, folks. My
Yes,
name
sir.
is Frank Rivera. I am from 26 Eagle Drive in Egg Harbor Township. I just want to make a statement.
I didn't hear, sir, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. My name is Frank Rivera. I'm from 26 Eagle Drive in Egg Harbor Township. I don't want to take off the mask because I've been coughing because I'm a little bit cotton mouth sitting there with no water for a little bit. Today, the township is actually convening today to vote on ordinance number 10. I am here to object to this vote. Given the state of the ongoing pandemic and the governor's decision to pause on phase 2 openings of other businesses, those that live and work here in the township are facing a critical time where their future is more uncertain than ever before, especially small business owners. Some of those business owners are currently closed and will remain closed for the duration of this phase 2 pause. Other businesses are actually restricted in their opportunity to grab income for themselves at 50% occupancy for indoor dining as we go forward in phase 3. As of right now, we only have limited dining on the outside. Some of these property owners not only own property in commercial real estate, but they also have a home here. So they're already limited on their business income, and now we're further adding, due to the COVID crisis, more hardships for them to obtain income so they can pay for their property taxes in a residential neighborhood. This bill or this ordinance should be paused, specifically for the reason that there's going to be businesses, especially going forward, that are going to die. I think that it is in the board's interest to maintain more business here in Egg Harbor Township, especially small businesses. But a business like Wolfson Group, who's already received a large enough tax rebate from the federal government, is now receiving another tax rebate from the board. I don't think that it's fair to other businesses in the township that aren't getting that same treatment. This company is making millions upon millions of dollars with 52 properties owned across the tri-state area, making with large leaseholders such as Kohl's, TJ Maxx, Marshall's, Home Goods. And they're paying full rate in that property, but they're getting a tax abatement. Now, I understand that this tax abatement brings in the opportunity for union workers to continue work, which is a great thing. I'm pro-union, I'm 825. However, it doesn't allow other businesses, other small businesses to grow and maintain their growth if we're giving it to people with larger checkbooks. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Anyone else on ordinance number 10 want to speak? Seeing none?
Motion to close.
Motion to close? Moved by Frank.
Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. Every single business gets a tax abatement, right? Neil?
There's two categories of tax
Right.
abatement. If you
Speak
build
up, Peter, so we can hear, because
If you come in
This is not
and you
new.
build a building 5,000 square feet or larger, you get abatement on that property. If you make $250,000 worth of upgrades and renovations to the existing building, the improvement is abated. Part of attracting someone to take over the Atlantic City Electric corporate headquarters, which was abandoned for about 15 years
Correct.
to transform into rateable, was the fact we had a 5-year tax abatement
Correct.
that they would be
And-
eligible for to make
Hold
an
on a
investment.
minute, Mayor. Correct. And also, that and We've done that. We've passed that many years ago in this town, and just about every town in the state has, am I correct? And
Most towns have a similar one, and there's
Right.
a recommendation of the
Just
Township
for the record,
Economic Development Commission.
Correct.
That we adopt this in order to spur commercial rateable growth to stabilize our rateable base.
and the property in question, this is one site, Pat, on that, that's $33 million worth of rateable for this town.
This is for the Texas Roadhouse property.
I understand, it's one
that parcel
one
3.
site, one pad site of 11, but the entire project is at 30, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's, when it's fully assessed, it will be approaching $30 million, yes.
Okay, we had a motion, Frank?
Question, just to follow up with Joe said, Peter, if we do not pass this, it's not going to benefit any other business in this town whatsoever, correct?
No.
And by doing a tax abatement program, it benefits other businesses and residents because we're bringing more ratables into the town, even though their taxes are phased in over a period of time, that it's going to help the tax base of future businesses and existing businesses and residents by having this program, correct?
Yes, once it was announced that Oak Tree Plaza was coming to town, the Wawa decided to relocate and build a new facility literally right next door to them.
Correct.
The bank fixed up their property, the mobile home park fixed up their property. Lidl's is coming to the township, actually in the former Gennardi's site, because they want to be near Walmart.
Right.
That's their business plan. They tried to build across the street once they Walmart got their approvals, but they had a problem with the property owner there. They weren't able to come through, so they've been looking to be in this area. So it does drive ratables.
Same thing with car
Other
toys.
economic benefit to our residents is for the 5 years, the township retains all the funds collected except for the 18% the county gets, and because it doesn't generate any school children. So while we normally get 18% of the tax bill, in year number 2, we're getting about 22, 23%, so we're creating revenue where we're able to maintain our low tax rate on local purpose side to the benefit of the residents. As people have jobs there, it grows. This particular property is suffering from the pandemic because they built a restaurant on the site and they can't open their doors. So they made that capital investment, and they did set up outdoor dining a couple of weeks ago to not be a complete loss, and they're also being impacted by the pandemic as any other restaurant is in the township. So,
Thank you, Peter. I think we all are educated now on our tax abatement program and know that it's a benefit to the township and to the residents and to other businesses in this town. So I think we're ready to vote.
Okay, we had a motion, right, Frank? Was somebody down here or no? Do we have a motion?
Yeah, motion.
Is there a second?
Well, you got to close the public portion.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. A motion, is second. Is there a second to close the public
Second.
portion? Second. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. A motion to adopt ordinance number 10.
Make that motion?
Made and second by Mr. Cafaro. A roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, for all the reasons stated. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any other topic, come forward.
Good evening.
Hello. Name and address, please.
Good evening, Chastity Branca, 23 Evergreen Avenue. I'd like to start by thanking everyone for being here. I know you don't get paid, and I appreciate all the time you put in. It is a thankless job. I actually have a list. I'll be as quick as I can. I didn't expect it to go this long. I apologize. First, I'd like to talk about the rivets in the road. I love it. I wish everybody could do it. Every road should have it. My mom was in a horrific car accident, and 2 lives were lost, and I think that may have made a difference. So thank you for putting in for that grant, and encourage everyone to do it. I think it can really make a difference in accidents.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying it.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to have a definition, if you don't mind, of what an alternate member is on your committees.
Which committee are you interested in? You
I
wanna be
just
on
would
the
like the
environment-
definition in
Well,
general.
you
I
wanna
mean,
be
I
on
know what an
environmental
alternate is on a jury. I know what it is in
An
a
alternate member,
conference.
an alternate member is to fill in when a permanent member is not available to have a quorum. Is that a right answer, Peter?
So they're a non-voting member, and the only time they get to vote is they can
Right.
be in the involved in the meeting, they can be in the discussion of the meeting, they just cannot vote if there is enough of the regular members there. If there's a member short, then the alternate then can vote.
So it's per meeting, not if they resign completely.
Correct.
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 Okay, so then I have another question about approval of minutes. When you approve the minutes and then you don't publish them till the next day, you're in essence making the community not see them for another month to come and discuss them.
Wait, say that again?
Okay, so if you have a meeting tonight, right, at your next meeting a month later or whatever, it's approved.
Right.
Right, so then, but nobody in the public can see them minutes. So it's approved, no one's read them except for the committee, and then a couple days later it might go online. So for anyone that had a problem or it would involve those minutes, they don't see them for another month, so it's like 2 months.
Are they not posted online, Peter, until they're approved?
No, they're not posted until you approve your minutes or any board approve their minutes. Once the minutes are approved, they're merely posted online. So the public doesn't get to edit your minutes, the minutes of your
Correct.
meeting. So until you approve your minutes, they don't get posted online.
Okay.
So it's up to whatever board.
Did you hear that?
So yeah, but I'm not looking necessarily to edit them, but I'm looking to read them. So in essence, you have a meeting today and it takes me 2 months to come back and be able to have a comment to the committee about it because that's when I can see them.
So, okay, so if you missed the meeting, you want to read the minutes of the meeting before they approve their mini meetings.
No, I actually would like them to approve it and have a copy that I could take if it's approved so I could quickly read them. And anything that was addressing something I would be concerned with, I can get up and talk about. Instead of it being 2 months
So,
after the
I
fact.
think it's the timeliness of when they're available. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you talking about our
We
committee
can't make
meeting or
minutes
some other meeting?
available until the board approves the minutes, because the clerk drafts the minutes, circulate to the board. They may edit it because their recollection of what was said at the meeting was different than what the clerk recorded. So it's presented for them, it appears on their agenda, they approve their minutes, and then the minutes are released to the public, which you're right. The minutes from tonight's meeting will be approved on the August 19th meeting, and in all likelihood, on August 20th, they'll be at the webpage.
Alternatively, if our agendas are in fact published on our website, so a citizen who is interested in a topic will know what the topic is that's discussed, and if any time they want to come into the clerk's office, since all of our meetings are recorded, they would certainly be able to listen to the recording of the meeting probably the following day. An open request.
I'm not specific to this meeting, it's other meetings I'm really interested in.
It's another meeting other than this, correct? So they couldn't watch it on TV?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a meeting in the past that you're looking for?
So I'm getting there. It's just I have steps to
you
go.
are, yeah,
I'm sorry. So basically, I'm here to discuss the hostile takeover of EHTYO. And unfortunately, it's been really hard to piece it all together. I literally feel like I'm putting together a puzzle, trying to figure out. In January and February, they were okay with EHTYO putting together a committee to come up with a 1 to 2 year plan to discuss going into one team. And then in March, and then COVID, and we all closed down, all of a sudden they're telling them, forcing them into one team, being involved in their coaching selection, and telling them they're taking the field. So I just don't understand how, when your minutes are put out like that, we didn't even know, I can only speak for myself, I didn't even know that this was going on, let alone to know that I had to pull the minutes. I didn't know that the rec department had decided they were going after YO.
I think, Chastity, let's just talk about what we're talking about, okay?
I don't want to, right, no problem, of course.
Recreation has had a couple meetings to discuss this.
Correct.
They gave their explanations at those meetings as to why they're doing what they're doing. And truthfully, I think we all feel they're justified in a lot of the things that they're doing. In regards to the minutes themselves, if you want to just stick on that, it's going to be a month before you would even get the opportunity to see it because they're not going to be approved until the next month's meeting anyway. So, and
No, I
truth be
fully
told,
agree,
I
but
think the thing with recreation is everyone should send someone there. There should always be, and it's wide open. All of these meetings are always open.
Well, I can show you that YO has sent someone there. They didn't send anyone
They
in
usually
March.
do. I'm usually there, so
Yeah,
I know
there's
that.
someone there. It had been Mark Mensch. Dr. Mark Mensch had been at
Mark's
multiple
been
meetings.
at most of the meetings.
Correct. So we're talking about, in February, YO put together a committee to go and look into 1 year, to look into a league, to look into what was best for their program. And in March, they changed it. So my problem is that they never called YO and said, we're doing this. They never sat down with YO and discussed it. Now, yes, I can find the minutes from 2 months ago, but that's not really, they can find the minutes from 2 months ago, but they weren't even invited specifically to a meeting that they were talking about dismantling half their program.
They held a special meeting. They held a special meeting to discuss this. You were there. I was there. Frank was there.
It was already done. The decision was made, though. What I mean is, YO was never given a chance to defend themselves during the process. The decision was made in May when no one even knew the world was open. I just feel that it was done really behind closed doors with no input from the program that it affects. If they were unhappy with YO, they should have specifically called them and talked to them. I mean, I have a pile of the letters. I have all the minutes. There's nothing in there about safety until Kevin Sesser decided to make it a safety issue, which is what every person in this room got up and said. So I know if I want to make a change, I say safety. They all got up and said, my neighborhood is now unsafe. Please help me. Kevin said, oh, football's now unsafe. Help me. Well, COVID's here, and you're making us double the size of teams during COVID when the governor's saying make them smaller. So I'm going to yell safety too. I feel like it was
And if the teams are big enough, there's going to be 2 leagues. You can join 2 leagues. This isn't the point to discuss that in regards to the decisions that they made. If you don't like it, and I understand that you didn't, but their decision was based on the numbers of the organization. They were based on a lot of documentation
What are
over the
they?
last few years.
What are the numbers? Does the commission know the numbers? Were they even ever discussed? No, they discussed one team's numbers. They discussed JV Atlantic's numbers. That's it, no one else's.
Having 13 children on the field.
After everyone quit. I don't
not
want to
safe.
make this personal about a person, but it kind of is specific to a person. It's specific to one coach. Can't keep players on his team. Nobody wants to coach with him, and he can't keep players on his team.
Chassie.
Topeka.
My name is Tamika Gilbert Floyd, 111 Irish Drive, Egg Harbor Township. First, I wanted to thank the mayor, deputy mayor, and the committee for all the work that you do for Egg Harbor Township.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, and I am a lifelong resident of Egg Harbor Township. I'm a little reluctant to say that again because I had a few issues. As you know, we did the peaceful protest in Egg Harbor Township, and I did receive some threats. So I just, if you don't mind, but I can give it to.
Did you report the threats?
Yeah, they were reported. Absolutely. Nevertheless, like I said, I wanted to thank you all for the service that you do for our community. And Mr. Miller, I just want to say that you have to go to the bathroom? Oh, okay. I was just going to say, Mr. Miller, you are very, very thorough. And I think that we're blessed to have you in our township. I don't think there's a question that you couldn't answer. And one thing you said, Mr. Miller, really stuck out to me. And when you were discussing the body cameras,
Up a little closer. There you go.
when you were discussing the body cameras for the police
I tried it.
officers, and you referenced that with the events that have been taking place over the last 4 months in our country, that it was something you felt that was needed, and I agree with you. But I also believe that I think something else that's needed beyond the body cameras is the continuation of the courageous conversations in our community. The continuation of the courageous conversations. So, as you know, myself and one of our other organizers of the peaceful protest that we had in Egg Harbor Township, that was an event. But it wasn't meant to be a one-hit wonder, that we have the event and then it just kind of goes away and the conversation stopped. So I did check on the website, and you may have an organization or a committee or something already in place, but I didn't know if the township would be interested in, or I'm recommending that we have either equity committee somewhere that could fit into one of the committees in the township. I don't know if you already have one.
I guess
Okay.
I'll speak a little bit. We don't have an equity committee, but I will say that Mr. Miller and I, since I've been on township committee, as well as the police chiefs, the past and present police chief, have been talking about equity since I've been here.
Okay.
And we've been working towards getting equity, and as well as the rest of the members up here. I'm
Okay.
not going to exclude anybody. We are working in Egg Harbor Township towards equity, and that's something that we continually look for in terms of our hiring practices and things of that nature. But there's no committee that I know of.
What I'm speaking of, and I appreciate that, what I'm speaking of is I'm presenting that myself and some of the organizers who happen to do the peaceful protest and who are residents of EHT, who have children that have graduated from the school system, and I have children that are in the school system, I'm recommending or requesting that maybe we could sit down with the mayor, deputy mayor, the committee, maybe put together a special meeting. I know you mentioned a special meeting that you were going to have in reference to another issue, that you say we could just put together a special meeting so we can have some, I think you said, some meaningful dialogue. And that's what I'm proposing.
We got no problem with it. All five of us are
Okay.
available at any time to speak about any topic
And
and
yes, and I think
concern
that'd
by
be
a
great.
resident in this township.
Yes, and that's no problem, and I believe that's why I came and sat through the wonderful, it was. It's not just school board. Yes, no, it's not, I understand.
Yeah, I'm sure you had meetings like it at the school board.
I understand.
I was there 15
Yes.
years ago.
So, so I'm proposing that we can sit down and start a conversation, and out of that conversation, to create some type of equity, I don't even want to call it a task force, a unity committee, equity committee, whatever, we can put a name on it together. But and I did speak to, I think we spoke with Andrew in reference to the township putting some type of statement on the website. And I didn't want it to come from me or Ms. Moore. I wanted it to come from us.
Right.
Because I feel as though, yes, it's a passion of mine. Yes, it's something that I'm very passionate about. But I also believe that our township is passionate about it as well. So that's the main reason I want to make sure that we continue the conversation. And I want to make sure that it's, inclusive of all members of the community. I mean, the task force can look like, or the committee could look like our community. And when I say that, I mean, I think it should be a variety of people from every race, creed, religion, whatever. Because as I was here at the meeting and different people came to the microphone, I said, wow, EHT is really diverse. We have a lot of diversity in our
And we're
community.
all community people together.
Oh, you don't have
All
to tell
of
me, I
us.
know.
Right.
I know we are.
Right.
One thing I say is we are one community, one goal, and we need to stay connected.
And this community is very good in that respect.
We are, but we have some work to do. And that's
right.
not an insult to you or to anybody sitting here. I'm including myself. There is work to be done. There's always room for improvement.
Absolutely.
And you can't get anybody to love EHT more than I do. I bleed silver, and I always say silver and
Black and silver.
black and silver.
That's right.
I'm class of 93. This is my home.
96.
I love EHT. And when you talk about a place that you love and it's not perfect, no place is perfect. But if we continue to we are great. There's no other better place to live. I could live anywhere else. And people said to me, well, you work in Winslow. Why don't you move up there, closer to your school? Oh, no. I'm sending my kids to EHT. This is where I'm staying. This is my home. But we do have work to do. And we have to do it together.
All right, very good. Thank you.
So
We're in.
So on that note, do I just need to reach out to who to get a date for the meeting?
Can I make a suggestion? Can you give me, you can reach out to me, I'll coordinate setting up the date.
Yes.
But what I want to do is promote the meeting so that we get the diversity that you want.
Okay. That we want.
We want,
Yes.
collectively.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What I would like to do is if you want to take a stab at some language saying that Egg Harbor Township is hosting a meeting to get the input of the community as to diversity and unity and working together to explore options to make us a better place.
Yes.
Something, whatever your thoughts and feelings are, then we can do a little editing, and then we can pick a date, host it in this room, and put it on our webpage and Facebook page. I can make sure that I get the religious community, the law enforcement community here, and everybody else in here, and whatever groups we have, whether the Latino community, the Korean community, the African American community, the Irish community, whatever
Yes,
it is,
that's right. I
to make sure you all come.
I think that is an amazing idea, and I think it's an idea that presented from all of us will include all of us. And like I said, we are EHT, and that's really the bottom line. And I tell people all the time, regardless of your race, your religion, your party affiliation, the one common thread that we all have in common is that we love Egg Harbor Township.
Amen.
And
Absolutely.
that's, I think, the thing that will unite us and, bring us all together. And
Just one more note in terms
Yes.
of this is an idea in terms of the website and language on the website. We did talk about that at our previous meeting and ready to roll with that. Now, what if in terms of the language of what we wanted to say, we came out of that first meeting where everyone had a voice, and if you want everybody's collective voice to be in it, why don't we wait to have it so that during that meeting, we can come out of that meeting with the language of what we wanted to say on our website?
what you wanted to say on the website. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
Right, because, I don't want it to come, like you said, I don't want it to come from me, and, or from Peter, or from you, or from, you want it to be,
it
you want it
should
to be a
come from- yeah.
collective.
Because
So I think that the best way that we can get a collective on what we wanted to say is if we do it during that meeting, that first meeting that we're having with everybody in their room. So whoever shows up for this meeting, this original meeting, one of the agenda items can be to come up with what the language is going to be for that website.
EHT statement on their stance on equity. And I think that I think the delivery of the purpose of the meeting that's going to be something I believe that, like I said, I still will reach out to Mr. Miller because I still feel as though it's something that needs to be delivered in the right way. It is a meeting of Egg Harbor Township residents, and it's also to address the issues that even as, I'm not Dr. Miller, but Mr. Miller had mentioned, he said the last 4 months, the events in our country, it shows that we not just EHT, but there's work to be done. There's conversations to be had that may be somewhat uncomfortable, but they need to be had. And I turn to the mayor, deputy mayor, and the committee because I've always said this, and I've said this to Mayor Hodson, you're the face of Egg Harbor Township. The committee is the face of EHT. When we have new families that move in, it's the face. And it's very important that the face of the community and the community members know that we're all together.
Okay, thank you, Tamika.
You, Ms. Floyd, yep.
So
Thanks,
Peter,
Ms. Floyd.
when we do this, can we advertise this as a town hall meeting and not a Egg Harbor Township meeting? That way it's...
I think a town hall, I think
It's a multicultural.
I think
It's equity.
It's a community
it's a
meeting.
reference. It really,
Right.
I really think it
Right,
needs
not
to-
a special township committee meeting, because, maybe
it's-
whatever that committee is, we may want, maybe Tamika or somebody else from the community to be part of that panel, discussion panel.
Yeah, yes, and I think my outcome or my desire, our desire, is to have a representation of people in our community that, and it's not a I gotcha or what are you doing? It's a hey, listen.
Work together.
Make sure that our community represents the equity in Egg Harbor Township. That's all. I mean, there's
Absolutely.
different terminology that I can share with Mr. Miller, but there's a difference between equity, diversity, and inclusion. There's different definitions for it.
Okay,
Okay?
Thank
I'll
you.
be willing to share that as well.
anyone else with anything to speak on?
Thanks, Tamika.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Seeing none, a motion to close?
I will make that motion as soon as I make this last statement, Mayor, and I won't give a committee report. Is that a fair trade?
No. We're gonna get the committee reports.
I think if I can say anything from my dealings and my work behind the scenes, Ms. Principal Gilbert, before you leave out of the room, the word equity has been on the tips of the tongues of everyone that I've worked with since I've been on this committee. And we have been driving and working towards the same goal, a similar goal. So equity, I think, is a beautiful word. You're going to hear from me over and over again in this election cycle. So equity is an excellent word to use. But I think that we all agree. As a matter of fact, I know that we all agree, and we're all working towards the same common goal. I think EHT is the example for the rest of the world to see.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Andrew, I will say that is so well said. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very good, Andrew. A motion to close the public portion.
I'll make that motion now, Mayor.
Thank you, Andrew. Seconded by Mr. Cafaro. All in favor? Aye. We get to the resolution calendar.
Mr. Mayor, before we do that, would you like to introduce ordinance number 11 concerning the EMS?
Yes, absolutely.
Ordinance number 11 is an ordinance fixing the salaries of certain official employees of the Township of Egg Harbor for the year 2020. It's for the non-contractuals, EMTs, hourly differential, $5 per hour to be paid on Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Labor Day, in addition to the New Year's Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve Day, which already received that differential.
Okay. Anyone, we have a motion to introduce ordinance 11?
Motion to introduce.
I'll second it.
Frank and Laura, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Now we get to the resolution calendar. Resolution 234, including down to 255. Anybody have any comments or concerns about the resolutions?
No.
Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adopt or approve the resolution calendar 234 through 255.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Supplemental, Peter?
Yes.
Supplemental agenda 258 down to 262.
Yes.
Anybody have any concerns with any of the five there? A motion to approve the additional resolution numbers?
I'll make a motion for resolutions 258 to 262.
Second.
Roll call, please. Is there a second? Who's second? Andrew. Okay, thanks, Andrew. A roll call, please.
Yes.
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 We got to go back to 256.
Yes. I got that, Joe. 256, approve authorization payment of the bills pursuant to Exhibit A. A motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made in second. Roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. Andrew, you said you had no more comments? We're going to.
That was
we're
my.
going, we're starting with Township Committee.
I'm a man of my word. No comment.
You're the man, Joe.
No report, Mayor, tonight.
Frank.
I think I said plenty tonight, but I just applaud the residents and business owners of rental properties that came out and voiced their opinions tonight. It's important for us to hear from the public, both sides of the story, for us to make a educated and informed decision. And I think we made the right decision tonight for the residents of Egg Harbor Township.
Okay, Laura.
Frank, I agree with you, Frank, 100% on that. Just a couple short things. I just want to remind everybody that our Public Works Convenience Center is open for summer hours, 6:30 to 2, Monday to Friday, 7 to 11 on Saturday. It's a great spot if your yard waste hasn't been picked up and you just want to bring it over there and they'll take it there. You can drop your extra wood and things like that, but they also have the mulch, which is free unless you get it dumped into your pickup truck or a bigger truck. So it's a great convenience to clean up your property if you'd like to do it before the township gets to it, because they've been backed up with everybody being home for COVID. So it's a good way to clean it up. And the next thing I would just like to, this has been it was a rough weekend here, and I just want to say thank you to all of our police, fire, EMS. Our hearts and prayers go out to the families that had tragic losses, and our support personnel subjects himself to some really horrific scenes, and they take those home. And the more I see and the more I learn from these men and women, we are so lucky to have them. They work so hard, and they do so much for us, and they just don't complain. They just do it. And I am impressed beyond belief by what they do every week. So I just want to thank you to all of them. And again, our hearts and prayers go out to the families that lost loved ones.
Okay, Laura, yeah, I just want to talk on that briefly. Our police, fire, and rescue this last month prior was probably the busiest I've seen in my career here in Egg Harbor Township. Not only fatal accidents, but serious house fires. And as Laura spoke, our police, fire, and rescue answer the call every day. I think we all read in the paper about the tragic accidents on the Black Horse Pike and Delilah Road. We all read about the serious fire on Lighthouse Lane. Just if the woman had called a little earlier, we might have saved that home. It was a total loss. And just this past weekend, with a tragic accident on Ocean Heights Avenue, I just asked the public to be aware of the increased traffic. Try to be a little slower, a little safer, a little cautious, because these things hurt a community. And to our police, fire, and rescue, that they're the professionals, even though most of them are volunteers that answered that call. This was the busiest month since our last meeting that I've recalled by looking over the calls of fire, alarms, a kitchen fire, residents in, extraction on the AC Expressway, Garden State Parkway, and our tragic fatals on our roadways. So just ask the public to try to be a little safer. We're busier. I think people are getting out and about after being shut down for months due to the coronavirus. But this was an amazing month of 30 days where our public safety answered the call. And as Laura said, our thoughts and prayers go to the families affected by any one of these incidents, be it a house fire where there's a total loss or a tragic accident where someone's life is lost. Mr. Miller, do you have anything?
Two things, Mayor. One is our capital project, we sold a bond for $1.5 million, and we had an interest rate of 0.89 of 1%.
I saw that, Peter. That was pretty remarkable.
Yes.
It's almost
I know
nothing.
you guys don't like to hear it, but when I could borrow money for less than 1%, I like to borrow more. But
when I saw that less than 1%, I said, "Whoa!"
Wow. And then the second thing, just to remind everybody, two things. One is Rhythm in the Park concert series is running every Friday night now from 7 to 9 at the Robert Lincoln Amphitheater in Canal Park. The first one got rained out on Friday night. Judge Payne will probably be rebooked for another night. And the last thing is, for those of you who haven't done the 2020 census yet, please go online and do that. The enumerators, because of the pandemic, haven't been out yet. It makes a difference in tens of thousands of dollars that the township may get, whether it's through school lunch programs, SNAP programs, assistance for us. We need everybody in Egg Harbor Township counted. You do not have to be a resident of the United States, a legal resident of the United States to be counted. You just have to be a resident of the United States when you get counted. They do not share the thing with Immigration and Naturalization Services. It's purely confidential, and we just need everybody to be counted because it may cost us money. I don't think we're going to hit 50,000 population in this census. If we did, it would put us in a different category for getting federal grants, but the closer we could get to it, for that money standpoint, is good. Having a couple thousand extra people down create other problems, but just please take the time and complete the census. It's at US Gov 2020 census, and it just takes less than 10 minutes to answer is 10 to 12 questions. That's it.
Peter, do you know if there's a date in which they're going to start sending people out, or if they are even going to send people out?
They announced last week that they have identified like 6 sections of the country that they're going to start having people go out. It's the last week of July, first week of August. Okay. Most of the urban areas, they won't be out probably till September, October. There is discussion with the Census Bureau to get congressional permission to delay the official number until April 1. They normally complete their count on December 31st, and they issue the number on April 1. They're actually trying to get the extra 3 months to complete the count before they issue the number. As far as I know, none of the committees in Congress have taken up their requests yet, because they're concerned that the undercount's going to be so great because they won't be able to get enough enumerators out in the field to do head counts.
Okay.
I have one question,
Go
Peter.
ahead.
Our municipal offices are opening. There's a change happening there?
We're open for scheduled appointments this week. Monday, we are open 8:30 to 4:30, walk-in like old times. We have all our safety stuff in place and everything to protect both our visitors and our employees.
Pre-corona.
And anybody who wanted to get in the building this week has been able to get in the building. We've just limited them between 9 and 11:30 and 1 and 3:30, just so that we're not overwhelmed.
And I was asked this question online today, and I didn't want to give an answer. I think I know the answer, but it says specifically that they have to have masks on, and someone asked, well, can I wear a face covering or,
Sure.
plastic
Sure,
shields?
the shields.
The
If
shields.
they wear a shield, we're not going to ask them to leave. As long as they have a cover over their face, we're going to accept it. I'm not going to tell somebody at the door that's wearing a plexiglass or plastic
Well,
shield or something.
But
because-
Andrew, along that point, it's come up in the schools to wear them instead of the mask so the children can see your face
Right.
for the students.
Right.
So I think that's permissible. I don't know.
It's questionable, but
Right.
most of the interaction they're going to have with us, my employees are behind glass as
Right.
it is, and if they have the glass, I'm protecting them from any spittle or anything.
Right.
I still have some reservations without the mask on about the transmission of germs because the mask is what absorbs that, the shield doesn't. But I don't expect a lot of people to show up with shields, so I'm not going to escort them out of the building.
Well,
Planning his plexiglass up?
Yes.
okay. Any more? Peter, I got one about the census, about you contacting a spot in the township for training. Did you get that too? No. I'll send you the email that somebody sent. It was just the other day. I don't
In the
think they're
past,
going.
The County Training Center for the 2010 census, 2000 census,
Okay.
they allowed them to use their room for training for their folks.
It was somebody, I believe, it's got hired to do this, but they're not in the field yet. Okay, anything else, Peter?
This is the bad news. I still need about 30 to 40 minutes of your time for closed
That's the bad news? I was going to say.
Maybe
Okay.
next time I'll give you the padded seats.
Yeah, Peter, can you do something with these chairs? My back is telling me about these chairs. Okay. Motion to approve the departmental reports for the month of June 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the payroll for the month of June
So moved.
of $1,254,908.01. I didn't have my glasses on. You made a motion?
So moved.
So moved, I'll second.
Moved by Andrew and Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Closed session, Peter.
Resolution 257, authorizing Township Committee convene to close executive session, to discuss matters that may involve personal or legal matters. Whereas the Open Public Meeting Act permits the exclusion of the public from meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body of opinion of such circumstance presently exists, and whereas the governing body wishes to discuss matters involving personal and or legal matters as follows. Under legal, Sea Pines Development, 2 months, Pleasantville IT Shared Services, 4 months, Egg Harbor River Campground litigation, 1 year, Daggett litigation, 1 year, under personnel, PBA grievance, 2 months. Whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matters involving the confidentiality of the above no longer require that confidentiality, then the minutes can be made public. And therefore resolved by Township Committee, Township of Egg Harbor, County of Atlantic, and State of New Jersey, that the public be excluded from this meeting.
My head, yes, I think I'm going